Good evening, students. Welcome to our second class on economics. Specifically today, we will be discussing Indian economy after independence up till 1990. So, if there is any doubt regarding the content of last class, you can comment under this video so that we can take care of that. So, today we will be discussing Indian economy 1950, that is just after independence, up till 1990, that is liberalization, privatization, globalization. In short, they are also known as LPG reforms. So before we move into LPG reforms, after just independence, Indian economy, that is at 1947 up till 1950, India was building its constitution, that is Constituent Assembly was making its constitution and also handling the economic affairs of the country as a caretaker government, semi-caretaker you can say. So during that time, the main duty of the government at that time was to decide policies and strategies that are to be followed by the newly independent nation. And after 1950, the constitution was enacted. Especially on which day? 26 January 19 Republic Day. So from 26 January, brain fog moment for the students here. It was 26 January 1950, the constitution came into force. Now, just a little idea about the world at that time. The world just after the Second World War was divided into two blocks. What are the two blocks? Just after the Second World War. USA, that is United States of America and Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which was led by Russia. Okay, so these two blocks had two different approaches to the economic development. Okay, the USA bloc was known as capitalist, and the USSR bloc was known as what? Communists. Okay. Now, can you please tell me what are the difference between a capitalist and a communist economy? Uh, the proper way to differentiate is just first I discuss capitalist economy. These were mainly propagated by former imperialist powers. Okay, do you understand what is the difference between imperialism and communism? No, first imperialism. First tell me what is imperialism. Just try to answer. There is nothing to be scared of here. The people who have joined online, you can also comment under the video so that you can make the class interactive. Not territory. Imperialism basically means economic exploitation. We are studying in the context of economy. So imperialism means economic exploitation by a power to a weaker nation. Okay, so basically that is known as imperialism. Imperialism are basically set of policies in which the colonist nation profits from its colonies. Okay, Now why I am discussing imperialism under capitalism? UK and USA were previous colonial countries. They had colonies. Now why it was important for these countries to maintain their colonies? It was important for them to maintain colonies because they had industrial revolution in their home countries. Okay. So to fuel that industrial revolution, they needed raw materials and market. So who provided cheap raw materials? Hmm. That is the colonies provided cheap raw materials. Yes. And these colonies also provided the markets so that the factories in USA and UK and other colonial countries at the time, that is Germany, Spain, Portugal, all they can run their industries. Okay. So this is the capitalist form of economy, which is mainly derived from the imperialist nature of the former uh, superpowers. Okay. Now there is also one important factor which you need to keep in mind, that is these countries are mostly profit oriented. That is, the economic policies they followed were mainly profit oriented. Okay. Now if you can list out a few policies of communism or the communist countries or maybe communist economy. No, not example, features. China is a unique example, I will discuss it later. Not capturing market, that is state control over the market. Okay, so basically the main idea of communism started after World War I in 1920s. Okay, the idea of communism started to spread at around 1920s, and after World War II, sorry for the disturbance, that is in 1950s, with the formation of USSR bloc, this economic policy also gained momentum around the world. Now, the main feature is they believed is all are equal. All are equal means that all countries are equal, all people are equal. The main another main thing which they believed is that is no state or a stateless economy. Stateless economy in the context of communist means they believed in borderless countries. Their definition of country or nation was different. To implement that, first they had to keep everything under the state control. And after that, as communism proceeded, they believed in an utopian world of no government control. That is community, self-sustaining communities living in economic harmony. Now, that is a utopian world. So for that, first they believed in no state and state economy, and they believed in the rule of workers and peasants. If you can see that most of the communist nations have a sickle and hammer logo, which basically represents the workers and peasants. The sickle represents the farmers, peasants. The hammer represents the workers. That is minimum involvement of state bureaucrats, and the rule was by workers and peasants. So these were these were the two economic blocks present. at that time. So these were the two options to India, that is capitalism and socialism. So can you guess which economic system of the two India adopted? Hmm. Yes, India adopted mixed system of economy. Mixed system of economy, that is it had features of both capitalism and socialism. That is it had social welfare policies in its mind, but also it believed in the market forces and believed in private property, private investment, and private industries also. Okay, so in capitalism, if we say there were private property, private rights, and profit driven. In socialism, we do not have the concept of private property. We don't have the concept of private rights. That is, we have very limited rights. In socialism, the uh, importance of duties is much more than the rights. Okay, and what I need to discuss here, it is that the main idea of socialism, that is communism or USSR bloc, was it was driven by need. Okay, not profit. Fundamental duties we have in India, we have fundamental duties. Similar kind of duties were present in the USSR bloc. Okay, now duties here, you can give an example that uh, there was no individual right. Okay, let's say in India we have Article 21, which gives our right to life and liberty. Okay, that is we can lead our life as we deem fit. But in socialism, the main idea or the main importance was given to the uh, collective rights. That is, instead of individual right, collective right was given more importance. If I give an example, in capitalist or USA, the right to abortion is an individual right. That is, a woman can choose to have a baby or not. But in capitalism, right to abortion cannot be an individual right because they need people. Okay, so if the state or if the community says that there is no right to abortion, right to abortion is not given here. Understood the difference? Because giving birth was considered a kind of duty. Okay, so this is an example of private right or duty. Okay, next is profit driven. Profit driven measure is mainly driven by want. Okay, I want a touch screen phone, the industry will provide me a touch screen phone. The industry will produce a touch screen phone, whether it is the need of the economy or not. But in socialism or USSR bloc, the main economy was driven by need. The state or the government decided uh, what is the need of the economy. That is, if the government decided that there is no need to produce touchscreen phone, only keypad phones are okay for people right now, that is there. That is need. The need is decided by state. Some recent This is demand driven, that is want driven, that is need. Now what is need? Need will be decided by state. For example, if I give a extreme example, in there is a certain country in where even hairstyle is decided by the state, decided by the head of the state. So this is kind of need. So need can be decided by the state, and want is decided by the individual. Okay. So India adopted basically a mixed type of economy, that is private plus government. Okay. Now to differentiate between the two types of economies more, I ask you three questions. First is, what? Second is how? Third is who will distribute. Okay. So what I am talking about? All the produce. Now what is produce? I will discuss it in a bit. Now let's say, what is produced? What are to be produced? What is the, what kind of factories India need to set up, or not India, maybe any country need to set up. So who will decide? I'm not talking about India here, okay? I'm just differentiating between these two economies. If a produce has to be, what produce has to be production is to be done. In capitalistic economy, who will decide? Yes, that is individual. Okay, in socialism, state, that is the government, bureaucrats. How the production has to be done? It has to be sourced internally or imported, or how the production has to be done, how many production steps should be there, all will be decided by individual, that is profit driven, here state. If the government says India needs to import capital goods, India needed to import capital goods. All the policies were decided by the state. Now, same distribution. Here the government distributes the produce, profits, salaries, everything. You don't have any private property. You don't have any rights. Means property rights. Other few rights you have there. But distribution, here it is individual. Now here distribution means how the market operates. Okay. So basically that is what we want, or what a person demands. So in a capitalistic economy, the market is always operated by invisible market forces, or a demand supply curve. Okay. Now this demand supply curve is different for different goods, that is valuable goods, relevant goods, normal goods, inferior goods. All those things will be discussed in our future classes. These are only preliminary classes which I am just introducing you to these ideas. Okay. So demand supply curve, that is in a market economy, that market forces are always determined by the demand and supply of a produce. For example, let's take an example of a shopkeeper who sells samosas. Let's say he has the capacity to build 10 samosas in a day, and he sells them for 10 rupees per piece. Okay. So let's say his samosas are very good. After a few days, the demand for his samosas is high. That is, instead of 10 people coming to buy those samosas, now 15 people are coming to buy samosas every day. but he himself only has capacity to make 10 samosas in a day. So what will happen? There is increase in demand. So if there is increase in demand, what will happen? What will the shopkeeper do? No, I said he has the capacity for 10 samosas, to make 10 samosas only. There is no plan to immediately expand. Only 10 samosas are to be made. So what will happen? He will increase the price. That is, he will increase the price, so let's say from 10 rupee to 15 rupee. So what will happen? As the price increases, there will be less demand. People who can afford samosa at 15 rupee, they will only come. So he will increase the price according to the demand. And inversely, his demand will fall from 15 to again 10 people. Understood? So these are market forces in which equilibrium is maintained in a market economy or a open economy. So these are the few features of a capitalistic, and these are of socialist economy. Now India adopted a private plus government economy, that is a mixed type of economy. Now officially it is called uh, socialist pattern of uh, society and a mixed kind of economy India adopted after independence. So all this discussion I have done here to make you understand that at that time world was divided into two blocks, USSA, USSR and USA, that is communism and capitalism. India, just a newly independent nation. Lot in the last class I have discussed, a lot of the population was reeling under poverty. India was drained of its wealth as put forth by Dadabhai Naoroji and other economists of that time. And before the newly independent nation, there was a challenge to uh, increase the literacy rates, increase the uh, economic growth, and maintain a good standard of living for its people. So India adopted accordingly mixed economy and socialist pattern of society, that is a welfare driven approach. Okay, now how these economic policies were implemented? I said na, mixed economy and socialist pattern of society. So how this mixed economy or socialist pattern of society was to be implemented throughout India? Adopted. I have adopted. I have set a target that India has to be a mixed economy. Now, what things are to be done by the government so that mixed economy is achieved in India? No, go to the basics first. The main thing was setting goals, strategies, and plans. Okay, so here comes the formation of planning commission. Okay, if you have uh, read the books in 1950, planning commission of India was set up, and the first 5-year plan, India followed a 5-year plan. This idea was borrowed from USSR. Uh, this idea was borrowed from USSR, and the first 5-year plan was implemented in 1951 to 56. Huh. In this 5-year plan, more importance was given to increase agricultural productivity. Okay, mainly to reduce the hunger. At that time, India was suffering from a lot of famines. Population was greatly derived of food. So agricultural productivity, increasing agricultural productivity was the main target of the government. So in the first 5-year plan, that is 51 to 56, agricultural it was implemented. Now, during that time, 1948, industrial policy framework or industrial policy resolution was passed by the in 48, obviously it was passed by the Constituent Assembly, and again it was passed in 1956. Okay, second industrial policy resolution was passed in 1956. Okay, now in second 5-year plan, that is from to the second 5-year plan, that is from 61 to sorry 1956 to 61, that is 1956 to 61, the policy shifted from agricultural to industrial growth. Okay, within 5 years the government changed its stance, that is industrial growth was needed rather than agricultural growth. Now this second year plan was also known as Nehru Mahalanobis plan, because there was a statistician of the name PC Mahalanobis. He was mainly responsible for the industrial outlook, or the industrial, not industrial revolution, that is the industrial outlook of that time of government. He also set up the ISI, that is India Statistical Institute in Kolkata. He was basically a statistician. Okay, so under the chairmanship of Mahalanobis, second 5-year plan was adopted from 56 to 61. Okay, now these are the first two 5-year plans. Now let me discuss what were the next page. What are the main or the consistent idea under the 5-year plans? Okay, the first thing which was India has to be a mixed economy. Okay, that is now second, India was to focus on growth, modernization, self-reliance, and third, India has to adopt an equity oriented approach. Now I will discuss all the 4 points one by one. Also, during this time DPSPs were introduced in the Indian Constitution mainly because of the socialist ideals or the development ideals or the welfare approach of the government, and also all the 5-year plans had clearly defined goals. Okay, so that there is accountability of the government, so they had achieved their goals or not. Okay, now one thing, what do you mean by plan? Hmm? Not in economic sense. Tell me what do you mean by a plan? That you plan to do something. What do you mean to do something by planning? Okay, so plans basically means we have to set few goals, huh? And then we have to strategize how these goals are to be achieved. So under strategy, what we can do as a nation, as a bureaucrat, what we can do as a strategy? Small. That is strategy, but how to implement the strategies? Let's say I strategize that for this institute to run smoothly, I need to have one one more teacher and a few extra computers. ठीक ना? So basically, I have to manage two things. That is human resource and material resource. Okay. So under the 5-year plans, it was mainly the plans were to manage human resource and material resource. On those management plans, a few goals were set, and uh, the plans were mainly to implement those plans. So after after the setting of goals, the main goal was growth, modernization, self-reliance, equity. Okay. Now DPSP, if you have completed your polity classes, you would know that DPSP are mainly to manage the human or manage the future generation. That is the directive principles of state policies. All you can see, not fundamentals of state. These are the, if say in future any new policy were to be implemented by the state or by the government or the legislatures, they had to keep in mind these directive principles. Okay, if you can open and see any directive principle, that is, it was a, for example, a simple directive principle regarding economy I can share you. There was a Gandhian principle about setting up of choir boards, if you can remember. Choir boards, village panchayats. Huh. So what is choir boards? Choir boards are basically handloom industries. That is, the coconut fibers are to be used to produce ropes. Just a second. And another was, Gandhian principle was village panchayats. Yellow color is okay. If I divide these two simple DPSP into the management of human resources and material resources. Human resources is panchayats, that is any social related issue or any village related issue. The people are to be held responsible, or they are self governing in a nature. In material, choir boards are to be set up, so that is there is a management of materials. Okay, so you can see these 5-year plans are in accordance or are in sync with the directive principles of state policy. Okay, redefine this. Okay, so I've discussed first 5-year plan, second 5-year plan. Okay, so now in 5-year plans there were 4 things: growth, modernization, self-reliance, and no, equity. Equity. Now what is growth? What do you mean by growth? What do you mean by growth, or what did our founding fathers meant by growth? What do you mean by economic growth? Huh. How economic growth happens? Hmm. So how will you make it from 10 to 15? It is not like that you keep the money here and after a few days magically it will be 15. How it will be 15? How will you increase? You are overcomplicating things. Keep it simple. How will you increase the economic value? You will increase the output. Let's say you are doing any business, you are making 10 shirts in a day. To make more, in next few days you will be making 12 shirts in a day, then 14, 16. You will gradually increase your output. Let's say I am taking classes here. If I are to increase my output or increase my economic activity, I will increase the number of classes. So why I have given you 2 examples. One is shirt, another is class or lecture. It is a good and it is a service. Understood? For growth to happen, we have to increase our product production or output of goods and services. Okay. Now for an increase in production of goods and services, all the sectors of an economy, how many sectors of economy are there? What are they? Yes, primary, secondary, tertiary. All the sectors of an economy has to perform in sync with each other. Okay, all the sectors need to increase its production. Huh? So for growth to happen, we have to increase the production output of goods and services. In a sense, indirectly, we will increase our revenue or increase the monetary value of all the goods and services. Now, how will we measure growth? Exactly, by measuring some indicators. Now, the best indicator, or not the best, actually the most popular indicator to measure growth is known as GDP. Now, what is GDP? This is full form. Okay. Now define GDP. Define GDP. You tell, I'm just writing. Hmm. Write the definition I am writing. Write the definition I am writing. Total monetary value. Written? Okay. So, see here, I have underlined the most important keywords in the definition, which you cannot miss if it is asked in any stage of the examination, maybe it interview, maybe it in the means. First is total monetary. Second is final goods and services, not intermediary goods. Okay. Final is finished goods. That is different. There are different ways to calculate GDP. Gross value added, another is consumption, another is income. Okay, those I will be discussing in measuring the economic classes. But here, just keep in mind the total monetary, the final goods and services produced during the domestic territory of a country in a year. Now GDP is calculated, also can be calculated quarterly, in half yearly, but in general in a year it is calculated, or in definition we can write in year. And domestic territory GDP is also calculated state wise, the gross state domestic produce. So keep in mind. So keep in mind all these things whenever you try to answer this thing. So measuring growth is a separate chapter in our TCS syllabus. I will be discussing that in our future classes. So here in 5-year plan discussion, so this is how we measure growth. Total monetary value. Now how growth has to be done? To increase output in all three sectors of the economy. In first 5-year plan, they focused on agriculture. In the second 5-year plan, they focused on industrial. Now how industrial services? Okay, I will discuss it in the self-reliant part. Now, this is growth. Now what they meant by modernization? What is your idea of modernization? Wearing jeans pant, wearing jeans pant, t-shirt, talking in English. That is technology. Modernization, as envisioned, was advancement in technology and advancement in society. That is socio-economic condition. Now, what can be advancement in technology? You can give examples of this time also. I just want to make sure if you are understanding what technological advancement we are talking about. These are scientific technologies, there is no doubt. They are advanced technologies. But in economic sense, in socio-economic sense, what is an advancement in technology? Here we have to think more about the application. Huh? In the first class also, I have said, I have told you guys that the Indian economy in any state PCS or central civil service examinations, they don't need you to be a master of economics. They want you to have a basic understanding of economy and have a preliminary or a good idea about Indian economy. That is the application of economics in Indian context. Similarly, all the subjects that you study here, that is polity, history, geography, economy, environment, science and tech, everything, international relations, they are to be studied in Indian context. How you are to applying those concepts to the betterment of India, to the better of Indian as a nation. Okay. So as a technology advancement, we can say that, if you give you an example, manual scavenging. Do you have idea about manual scavenging? So what will be a modernization? Modernization will be then when we have technology or machines so that people don't have to do manually handle the waste matter or the feces and everything. So that kind of modernization here we are talking about. Those which have a positive impact on the people of India. Okay. Another technology advancement can be in the field of farming. Previously, animals were used to plow the fields. Sometimes, in even the most poor farmers also plow the field themselves. Nah, huh? Now we use tractors. Don't delve too much into future. Thinking about it. Now people use tractors to plow their fields. So that can be considered as a technology advancement. That can be considered as a modernization. Okay. Now in terms of society, what modernization? Hey, anything. In society, we can say about acceptance of education of women. Women literacy rates at the time of independence were dismal. Now it is much more better. So that can be considered a modernization. Huh? So these were the goals of 5-year plans. No, no, children education is there, but there was societal stigma around education of women, or maybe higher education of women, to be precise. So that thing is now less prevalent. Women are excelling in fields of science, technology, sports, defense, everywhere. So this can be considered a modernization of India. This was envisioned in the 5-year plans. I am discussing here the 5-year plans. What the 5-year plans discussed, along with economic advancement, they also envisioned societal advancement, advancement as a country. Okay, so and this can be one example. So these were the modernization envisioned by the Nehru government at that time. Next is self-reliant. This is the third term in, huh? No, 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 no. All these uh, four terms, that is growth, modernization, self-reliant and equity. These four features are present from the first till the last 5-year plan. These are the main objectives of the 5-year plan. All 5-year plans. Okay. So what they meant by self-reliant India. Atmanirbhar can be considered as modern version of self-reliant India envisioned by the 5-year plans, in the 5-year plans. So what they meant by self-reliance? Self-reliance in, exactly, because at that time India was suffering from famines, huge number of population was malnourished or stricken by poverty. So in the first 5-year plan, agriculture was given priority. So what was the idea behind that? They wanted India to be self-reliant in agriculture. That is basically food security. At that time, India was importing wheat from other countries to feed its population. If you could understand the situation, the most famous was USA PL 480 program. They imported wheat, they exported wheat to India, but the wheat quality, no, every, not we are not importing from one country only. The main example I'm giving you of USA of PL 480 program was they used to send us wheat which they used to feed pigs. Okay, so that was a very disheartening situation, and because of that also mainly Indira Gandhi government started the Green Revolution program. Who was the scientific head behind the Green Revolution? Those who know, you can comment here also. MS Swaminathan. MS Swaminathan. MS Swaminathan. So, understood. So, in self-reliance, at the first 5-year plan, it is buffering. Sorry, there is a little technical issue here. I think there is buffering in the feed. Can you comment whether the feed is fine or not? এটা মাঝখানে মাঝখানে এমনি ঘুরন শুরু করতেছে, তো এমনি চলবো। এটাতে কইছি তোমার দেখতে কইছি, এটা ঠিক আছে? আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে। Okay, sorry for the slight technical disruption. So where was I? Self-reliance. Self-reliance. So in the first 5-year plan, agriculture was given prominence mainly to make India self-reliant in agriculture. That is, our food security was the issue back then. So it was addressed by the first 5-year plan. Now, can you? I can say that this idea of self-reliance changes with the needs of the economy. Now, can you say at that time agriculture was the issue back then? Now, during this time, now in this 21st century, what are the things? What are the things we need to focus so that India has to be self-reliant in these fields? It can be agriculture also, pharma also, in any service kind of also. Give me your answer. Those who have joined online, you can also comment. Make the class a little interactive. Huh. Now think, no, think under the perspective of a future bureaucrat. Now, how will you make sure that social media has to be self-reliant? How will you make sure? By legislation. Legislation. It is very simple. So it is not a issue here that we can pass a simple legislation that the data centers need to be located in India. So simply the companies will have to shift, or we can simply ban any social media network which is engaged in anti-national activities or which is a threat to the nation. That is not an issue. Mm, in uh, back in the back end of an economy, what are the main things which we need to focus here? We have to be self-reliant in pharma. Pharma. If we all know that India is known as the pharmacy of the world for producing good quality and affordable generic products. India also exports to a large number of countries. But there is a structural issue here. The structural issue here is that we export finished products, but all the APIs, huh? Raw materials, yes, that is the active pharmaceutical ingredients, most of our countries still import from China. So this structural issue was more so exposed during COVID times. Recently in COVID times, China restricted its export of pharma APIs, so Indian companies also had to reduce their pharmacy exports. Clear? Second, any idea? People in the chat? Uh, Not manufacturing actually. I'm talking about specific sectors, not just broad manufacturing, agriculture, and yeah. Uh, the most important for sovereignty, that is for a sovereign nation, we can think in 21st century as semiconductor. For our computing needs, research, defense, general day-to-day maintenance, we need a lot of semiconductor. Huh? But that is what I'm saying. It is very limited found in India right now. But what are the raw materials needed for semiconductor? Silicon. Silicon, then capital goods. Then most important is human resources. The technology or the patents we don't have. There is only a single company in the whole entire world which manufactures machine which can manufacture a semiconductor. Only a single company. That is, every semiconductor chip has a fabrication base, na? And on that the circuits are printed, silicon wafers are printed. To make those silicon wafers and circuits, there is only a single company which makes the machines. It is known as ASML. It's a Dutch company. Dutch company. This is the first step in semiconductor manufacturing. The second step is fabrication that you are saying. That is, what are the companies? Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC. This is one of the famous companies. This is the second step, which makes the chips using the ASML machine. They buy machines from the Dutch company, and those machines are used to manufacture the silicon wafers. That is the base semiconductor. Now in the third step, there are companies like Foxconn. There is companies like, huh? Vedantu, not Vedanta. Vedanta is still not manufacturing. It is in build. It is in building stage of its fabrication units. So just stick with the simple single example, that is Foxconn. Foxconn uses the semiconductors manufactured by TSMC to manufacture phones or chips for cars or for helicopters or simple computers. All those are built by companies like Foxconn. Okay, and along all these, there are companies like Intel, AMD, Adobe, which own the designs, which owns the patents, which owns the technological capacity to use those chips. So India doesn't have, as of now, India doesn't have expertise in any of the steps in a semiconductor manufacturing. Under the government's initiative, a lot of factories are to be set up, a lot of consortiums are to be set up in India, but those are at the very end level of the semiconductor value chain. Those are at very end and very low margin work are to be done. That is packaging, assembly, testing, like, what is this another thing? Packaging, assembly, testing, and another is those three things, mainly those three things are to be done by Indian companies. At the very end of the value chain, very low margin work. They don't have any patents, they just stick all these things together and sell to India and other low income countries. Another sector India needs to be self-reliant. The world is moving from fossil fuels to what can you say, to solar energy, renewable energy. But as we know, solar, wind, and other renewable energy have a cyclical issue. That is, they are not present when we need the maximum load. Okay, so for that capacity and the distribution load to be matched, we need battery or the storage technology. The storage technology also here same, lithium ion batteries, most of its production, recycling, etc. are controlled by our rival nation, that is China. So that is also an issue. Our energy security is at risk here. Huh? So these are the modern self-reliant issues we need to take care of. Now, before there was five-year plans and planning commissions. Now there is Niti Aayog to manage those things. So they will be formulating policies and advising the government on how India should proceed so that we can achieve self-reliance in the required sectors. Okay, so basically self-reliant to maintain our sovereignty. Okay, so that no any nation can blackmail us for our absolute needs. Clear? Now the fourth thing which the five-year plans mentioned was equity. Now what do you mean by equity? Acha, what if you can differentiate what is equity and what is equality? Hmm. 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 Uh, you are quoting example given in class itself, na? Just D2 quoting. Use another example. Don't copy and paste. Just what you will give an example from any YouTube or any book, na? Just formulate an example on your own. Sorry for the disturbance. Uh, so in short, Equality basically, first I will explain equality. Equality is everyone is equal and should be treated equally. Let's say in a state there are uh, 100 old people, everyone, the 100 senior citizens, everyone receives a senior citizen allowance of 1000 rupee. That is equality. Okay. Now in equity, we basically say everyone is not equal. So basically, like should be treated equally and unlike should be treated unequally. In this case, in equity case, the same example of 1000, not 1000, 100 people are there, I guess. 100 senior citizens were there. Now, out of 100, maybe 50 people are well to do. They don't have any, they don't need any extra help from the government. The other 50, among other 50, 25 are okay. And among other 25, they are extremely poor. So how will you distribute the money? Let's say we will give 100 to 25 and sorry, 1000 to 25 people and 2000 to the extremely poor 25, so that their standard of living can be balanced. Okay, so that they can be put on the same platform and then they can be treated equally. Understood? So this is the basic difference between equity and equality. Both, in according to Indian context, both are to be found from under Article 14, that is equality before law, that is equality before law, which is the first concept of equality. And here also it is also implied from the different Supreme Court judgments that we also look towards the concept of equal protection of laws, equality before law and equal protection of law. One example of equal protection of laws: always try to associate the concepts with the examples so that you can write those in exam also and fetch better marks than an average aspirant. Understood? So equal protection of laws, one example is reservation. Now if you want to expand the example, we can give an example of reservation of 33% of women in Panchayati Raj institutions. Understood? We can say that women and men are equal. So why this extra benefit to them? Under equality. But under equal protection of laws, we have to acknowledge that women and men are treated differently in the society. Although they are equal, but they are treated differently in our socio-economic context. So make those wrongs correct, we have to give a reservation or a positive action or an affirmation to that section of the society to give them a to make them on the equal footing on regards to men. In spite of those, you can see the records. In spite of this 33% reservation in Panchayati Raj institutions, still women participation in politics is very low. We have had women president, we have had women prime minister, We also have had women uh, governors of states, women chief minister of states. Still, in those very few states, we can see the concepts of uh, Pradhanpati, in which there is a uh, mere representation of the woman, but the actual control is under her husband. So you can see this very example makes you understand the need for the reservation. Just even after reservation, still the control is under men. So we have to make correct those things. So this given example was main famous from the web series, that is Panchayat. Ha ha. Okay. So these are the things under 5-year plans. India focused on growth, modernization. Mind you, modernization not equal to westernization. Then we also have self-reliance. Now all those things would have not benefited all people of the society unless we focused on equity also. Okay. So this equity, so that modernization not equal to westernization, self-reliance. Okay. Clear? So I have a homework or an assignment, you can say, for the students. We are studying about equality, inequality, and equity in Indian socio-economic context. So can you search about what is known as Gini coefficient? This is your homework. What is Gini coefficient? Those students who are joining offline, you can show me your answer in the next class. And those who are online, you can comment under this video, and we will respond with any correction if needed. So understand what is Gini coefficient, and from Gini coefficient, I will continue our next session. Okay? Thank you for joining. If any doubt, the helpline number and the institute numbers are displayed on the screen. Feel free to contact them. Thank you.